I say this is a big government, unprecedented federal power grab. It's paving the way, by the way, to a national sales tax. I truly believe that. But let's talk to our guests. Back with us, Grover Norquist, who's Americans for Tax Reform, is among the bill's opponents, and Gary Shapiro, who is among the bill's supporters. Gary, I'll begin with you.
Well, first of all, let me correct what you said. It is not a new tax. It is not even a tax. This tax is owed by every American.
No, but this is a mandate by the federal government to have all interstate internet sales taxes paid. That's something brand new. That mandate bothers me, but the interstate, as Kelly Ayotte said, the interstate part bothers me too.
It could bother you, and I understand that. And if it's unconstitutional, it is unconstitutional. I don't think it is. But all it is when you buy something in New York or New Jersey, you, as a consumer on the internet, are obligated to report to the state the tax that should be paid.
In the state?
In the state you're in.
All right.
So you should be paying that. The truth is most Americans are not doing that.
But Grover Norquist, okay, you heard Gary, but this is not what that's doing. This is going out of state. This is crossing states. Is it not, Grover?
Look, this is all politicians decide about the idea of having a tax where they can take money from people who don't get to vote against them. The whole point of this, New York could collect taxes, use taxes, from people who live in New York. They don't want to do that. This whole thing is to allow politicians to say, you know what, we're going to have California businesses pay taxes to New York, and we can be as vicious and as tough on them as we want. They don't get to vote against us. It's allowing high-tax states that are failed states to reach into successful states and tax businesses there. These states drive businesses, high-tech businesses, out of their states, and they want to be able to reach back in and tax them. The advocates of this say it'll raise $23 billion in taxes. I get a kick out of the people who say it's not a tax increase, but we're going to get $23 billion in higher taxes once we pass it.
I mean, Gary, this is a tax grab, pure and simple, and it is also will lead to a massive new government bureaucracy to keep track of this stuff. Something we have, the states will get money. This is just a huge grab towards
Well, let me put it this way. If it was a tax grab, then all the Republican governors who signed Grover's pledge would not be supporting it, and most of them do. The head of the American Conservative Union supports it. A bunch of conservatives support it because it is simply a way of collecting a tax which is already owed, and it's a more efficient way than asking every American, except for those that live in the 5 states that have no sales tax, to have to file reports with their state governments, which is today's law. And that's all. The next Supreme Court Justice nominee is certainly going to be asked, did you pay your sales tax on your internet purchases? And the answer is likely to be no. And this will be the equivalent of the old nanny taxes if people didn't pay it. This is an efficient way of collecting tax at all. Plus, let's face it, state governments have a lot of expenses. They have police, they have firemen, and they have to pay for them.
By taxing?
Well, it's not competing with brick-and-mortar retailers.
Grover,
they have to pay it.
All right, Grover, it took a little while, but we finally smoked him out. He wants the states to have more revenues so they can provide more spending. I think that is a very bad idea, and I want you to follow up, Grover, on what he's saying. Is it true that all these Republican governors really want this?
Well, no. Some governors want higher taxes that other people will pay. They'd love to have the federal government pass a law that gave them money, and they go, oh, look, I don't have my fingerprints on this tax increase. If they wanted to steal this money themselves from their own citizens, they could do that yesterday. That's what this is all a big Rube Goldberg contraption to get money out of other people's pockets from other states, businesses that can't vote against you, and then you say, I didn't do this. It just happened. But it's they claim, a $23 billion tax increase on the American people. We ought not to be taxing internet sales. We ought to say, if you do business in a state, you can be taxed. Right. But if you don't live there, if you're not doing business there, you shouldn't be taxed.
I want to ask about your membership. You're primarily large companies?
80% smaller companies, 2,000 technology companies.
You need to go back because small business hates this. Small business is now going to have to pay taxes. When they go over the transom from state to state, they are going to have to set up whole departments which they cannot afford in order to do the record.
That's not true. The smallest support of this.
RedState.com, Eric Erickson's done some great research on this. This will be devastating for small business.
You know, mom and pop retailers want to see this because they can't compete with with internet retailers that have an unfair 5 to 10% advantage and are not paying tax. As it is, they don't have the cost of the brick and mortar and the hiring the local employees. If we want to see empty malls across America increasingly and state governments that have the revenue's gone down.
Tax collected? Why do mom and pop? They want to sell the services over the web. I understand that, but why do they want to raise the price?
Because internet retailers are using the roads and the traffic and the policemen, and they're getting the protection when they deliver the products. And they should.
That's a big government argument. That's a big government. I'll give you the last word, Grover.
Larry, I served on a commission that looked at this more than 10 years ago, and we voted overwhelmingly not to tax the internet because the so-called fairness argument was nonsense. The cost of shipping way outweighs the difference in taxes. And by the way, states should compete to provide the best government at the lowest cost. If you don't like the sales tax in your state and you're a brick and mortar guy, then call your state legislator and call your governor and tell him to cut taxes. Don't tell them to go tax other people. We need tax competition. That will keep government efficient in all 57 states.
57 states? Was that a Freudian slip? That's what Obama said. I visited all 57 states. Okay, we got that cleared up. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it very much.